Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. I'm David.
And I'm Anna.
Today, we're diving into a topic that affects every single one of us, our habits. You know, those routines, good or bad, that shape how we live our days.
Exactly. Habits can be so subtle, but they control so much of what we do. And the thing is, a habit isn't just about what you do, it's about why you do it.
I love that. And there's also the idea that habits are kind of like the autopilot of our life. We don't always think about them, but they guide a huge part of our decisions and actions.
Totally. And it's fascinating because some habits feel harmless, like drinking coffee in the morning. And some habits can completely derail you if you're not careful.
Yeah, speaking of which, I want to start with a personal confession. I have a habit of scrolling through my phone late at night. I know it's bad, but it's become this almost unconscious routine.
Oh, I can relate. I think we all have at least one habit that we know isn't great, but we keep doing it. I, for instance, have a habit of overthinking every tiny interaction I have during the day. By the time I go to bed, my brain is exhausted.
That's a good point. Habits don't just affect our physical actions, they affect our mental state too. And sometimes it's the mental habits that are the hardest to break.
Absolutely. And there's this whole idea that habits are made up of a loop, a cue, a routine, and a reward. The cue triggers the behavior, the routine is the habit itself, and the reward reinforces it.
Yeah, that framework is super helpful for understanding why we do things without thinking. For example, my cue is lying in bed scrolling on my phone. The routine is endless scrolling, and the reward is feeling connected or entertained.
Exactly. And sometimes the reward is sneaky. Like for me, overthinking gives me a sense of control, even though it's exhausting. It's like my brain says, if I keep analyzing, I'll be prepared. But in reality, I just tire myself out.
That's interesting because it highlights that habits are not just about convenience, they fulfill some need. And when we try to break a habit, we have to address the need, not just the behavior.
Right. You can't just say, stop scrolling or stop overthinking. You have to understand why you're doing it and what that behavior gives you.
Speaking of breaking habits, have you ever tried to break a habit and completely failed at first?
Oh, definitely. I tried cutting out sugar for a month once. For the first week, I was super disciplined. But by the second week, the moment I saw chocolate, it was like my brain took over and I ate the whole bar.
Same here with exercise. I set this ambitious goal to run every morning, but some mornings I just hit snooze, then feel guilty all day. I realized it wasn't about willpower, it was about building a routine that felt sustainable.
That's such an important distinction. People often think breaking a habit is about willpower, but in reality, it's about creating an environment and a system that makes the habit easy or hard, depending on what you want.
And that brings up something I find really interesting. Habits compound over time. A small habit done consistently can have huge effects over months or years.
Yeah, like saving just a little money each week. It doesn't feel like much at first, but after a year, it's significant. The same goes for things like reading or journaling.
On the flip side, bad habits compound too. Drinking one extra soda every day might seem trivial, but over time it adds up in ways you don't notice immediately.
Exactly. That's why self-awareness is such a critical first step. You have to notice your habits, even the ones that feel invisible, to have any chance of changing them.
Agreed. And one of the ways I track habits is by journaling or using a habit tracker. Just seeing it in black and white makes me more accountable.
I do the same thing, actually. I think there's something powerful about visualizing habits. Even just checking off a box for something you did or didn't do reinforces the habit loop.
Absolutely. And sometimes people focus too much on breaking habits rather than replacing them with something healthier.
Yes, that's a key point. For example, instead of just stop scrolling at night, you might replace it with reading a chapter of a book or meditating for 10 minutes. You still get a reward, but it's healthier.
And speaking of rewards, I think one reason habits stick is that they're tied to emotional states. The habit gives you a quick fix emotionally, which makes it hard to break.
Totally. That's why habits around stress, boredom, or anxiety are so tough. They provide temporary relief, even if long term they hurt us.
That reminds me of my morning coffee habit. It's not just caffeine, it's the moment of calm before I start the day. I'm emotionally attached to it.
That's a perfect example, and it highlights another aspect of habits context. Habits are tied to time, place, and emotional state. Changing the context can help change the habit.
Like if you always eat snacks while watching TV, moving to a different environment or keeping healthy snacks nearby can gradually change the behavior.
Exactly. Or if you overthink at night, changing your bedtime routine, maybe journaling or listening to calm music, can help break the pattern.
Another interesting thing about habits is how contagious they can be. The people around you influence what habits you pick up.
Oh, totally. I've noticed that when I'm around disciplined people, I naturally pick up some of their habits, even subconsciously.
Same here. And that works the other way too. If you're around people who procrastinate or snack constantly, it can reinforce bad habits.
That's why social environment matters so much when it comes to habits, not just for accountability, but also for subconscious influence.
And then there's the idea of identity-based habits, not just doing something because you want the result, but doing it because it's part of who you are.
Yeah, I love that concept. Instead of saying, I want to run 3 times a week, you say, I am a runner. It changes the mindset from temporary action to a part of your identity.
That's powerful, because when it becomes part of your identity, the habit is no longer a struggle, it's something you naturally do.
Exactly. And the tricky part is that we have to be honest with ourselves about the habits that don't align with the identity we want.
Right. You can't say you're a healthy eater if you keep binging on junk food. At some point, your actions have to reflect your identity.
Another thing that's fascinating is how habits affect mental health. Good habits can improve focus, mood, and energy, while bad habits can drain you mentally without you even noticing.
Yeah, it's not just physical outcomes. Even simple things like going to bed at the same time or drinking water regularly affect mood and stress levels.
That's why people say habits shape your life. They're not just routines, they define the quality of your days and ultimately your years.
And I think that's why it's important to be intentional with habits. You can't just let them happen by default.
Totally. Awareness and intention are key. And once you're aware, you can start making small, incremental changes. Small habits can create big results over time.
Speaking of incremental change, I've been experimenting with micro habits, tiny actions that are easy to do but compound into meaningful change.
Oh, I love micro habits, like writing 1 sentence a day instead of a full journal entry, or doing 1 push-up a day. They feel achievable, and over time, they become bigger habits naturally.
Exactly. And it's less intimidating. People fail because they try to overhaul everything at once instead of starting small.
That's so true. Consistency is more important than intensity. Doing a little every day beats doing a lot once in a while.
And sometimes habits fail not because of willpower, but because people forget the triggers or the context.
Totally. That's why building reminders or pairing habits with existing routines works so well.
For example, I pair my morning journaling with making coffee. I can't make coffee without remembering to journal first.
I do something similar with stretching. I always stretch right after brushing my teeth in the morning. It's automatic now.
That's a great example of habit stacking. Pairing a new habit with an existing one makes it much easier to maintain.
And it also ties back to rewards. When you do something consistently and feel good afterwards, the habit reinforces itself.
Yes, that loop of cue, routine, and reward is really at the core of everything.
So, David, if you had to give one piece of advice for someone struggling with habits, what would it be?
I'd say start small, be aware, and tie habits to your identity. Focus on building systems, not just relying on willpower.
I love that. I'd add notice why you do the habit and what need it fulfills. Replace unhealthy habits with something that meets the same need.
That's a good one, and I think patience is key. Habits take time to form or break. It's not instant.
Absolutely. And celebrate progress, not perfection. Even small wins are huge when it comes to building better habits.
So true. Habits are really the foundation of the life we want to live, but they're also flexible. We can adjust them anytime we want if we approach them intentionally.
That's a great note to end on. Intentionality, awareness, and patience.
Exactly. And for our listeners, just remember, it's never too late to start building habits that actually serve you.
That's right. Start small, be consistent, and choose your habits consciously.
That's it for today's episode. Thanks so much for listening.
And don't forget to check out our show notes for resources and tips on building habits that stick.
See you next time.
Bye, everyone.